Welcome to this video. It's great to see you again. So during this video, I'm going to share a little bit of behind the scenes on my own career. I want you to know exactly what I do and what I've done as a business analyst during the last few years. This will help you learn from me, and I'll share some of the lessons that I've learned and some of the unique experiences that business analysis specifically brought to me. I'll also share some how I have grown as a professional as a result of being a business analyst. I hope you enjoy this. There will most likely be more than one of these videos just because I've had a long career. But let's start at the beginning and let me share my first project with you. So if you're new to this channel is all about your business analysis career. I do whatever I can to share my experiences, my knowledge and expertise with you during every week's videos. So if you like that, please subscribe, and I like to see you again in future videos. But for now, let's jump in and let's see what I've been up to. So my career journey as a business analyst. Let me share with you where I started out. Yes, my first ever job was in Johannesburg in South Africa, which is where I'm originally from. Then I moved to London, and I had a fantastic 6.5 years in London working as a business analyst for a few different companies that I can't wait to share with you what I've done there. And then I moved to Australia, where I've been working in Melbourne, also for a few very exciting different companies and nice projects that I can't wait to share with you in future weeks. But for today, let's jump in right at the beginning and talk about what I did at Johannesburg. Now, as you can see on this screen, I'm just sharing a few of the logos of the companies that I've worked for during the last few years. So we'll start with Arthur Andersen, which is a professional services company that I started with when I started my career in Johannesburg. So if we focus on that, let's have a look at the very first big project that I was ever involved with as a business analyst. And let's discover what did I have to do in that first project. But before I even do that, let's jump into a definition of business analysis, just in case you are brand new to business analysis. So a business analyst identifies and validates business requirements, which is like needs or business problems. And then they communicate that using a variety of different techniques and tools to find solutions with project delivery teams. So the changes that we implement as business analysts can come in the format of software solutions or processes or different types of change. It doesn't technically always have to be a system, although in most cases there's always a system involved. But there's always more than just a system for the business analyst. We have to work with people, we have to work with process, and we have to help facilitate change. But we'll delve into more of that as we go. So this very first project that I worked with, I was very lucky to work on an Oracle PeopleSoft project for Arthur Andersen. What happened was Arthur Andersen had offices all around the world, and I was working in the local Johannesburg office at the time. I got to be part of a global human resources implementation, and the problem we were trying to solve, what the organization or the global organization wanted to do was to standardize their HR or human resources systems. And in Johannesburg, we were, just like many other countries at the time, we were using our own local HR database and spreadsheets and different payroll systems to basically manage the employees in the Johannesburg office. So with the global solution, we were part of this project where they were going to replace everything that we were doing in the local office with a new standardized global ERP, which was Oracle's PeopleSoft. So that was kind of the scenario of where we were at. But let me talk to you a bit about what did I do as the business analyst. So I started in the technology department of the Andersen office in South Africa, or in Johannesburg specifically. And in this particular scenario, my key role was to understand what did we do today within our HR department effectively in terms of process, but also in terms of the systems that were involved. So I had to locally basically talk to everyone, understand exactly what the different parts of the HR function entailed, and start to process map that, document that, and collaborate with the different stakeholders to make sure that we got consensus on the current state. So that involved me sitting with a lot of the HR staff and getting to know them and building relationships with them, where I would talk to them about exactly what they did in their area. So there was things like recruitment. They had a particular process. They had payroll, which was we had to just interface with. We were not replacing the entire payroll, but I had to talk to the payroll manager. And then, of course, the normal administration side of things, where it was all about the employee records and job descriptions and all of that. So it was really quite interesting as one of my first big projects to learn how to elicit these requirements and to document them with the limited skills that I had at the time. I also got exposure to work with this global team, which I found very exciting. And I had to start to learn the new system. So the new PeopleSoft system, we got some exciting training in Europe, which was really good for somebody living in South Africa at the time. But as a result, we were able to do, and I was specifically responsible to do the gap analysis between what we were doing within the local office versus what the new system would give us. So how did I do that, you might wonder? So essentially, as the BA, I learned very quickly how to do process maps, and I used Microsoft Visio, or in fact, I used Micrographics Charter. I just remembered that was Micrographics, not Microsoft Visio, but a very similar tool to start mapping all of the process diagrams. I also documented all of the requirements. So it was about understanding kind of what were our key and base requirements as a local HR function, and then develop the gap analysis by comparing that to what the solution will give us, the new solution. So there was a lot to learn, and I had to upskill in the HR function and really get my hands dirty as a first big project. But it was a great experience. But let me show you, just in case you are brand new to business analysis, what do those artifacts look like? So what did I actually produce as such? So what I produced was process diagrams similar to this, but not this one, because this example is about a different topic. But just to show you very basic process flow that was used. So that was one of the things that I had to do for all the different processes. And it was all from the current state perspective. So it was all about how do they do it in Johannesburg at the time. Then this is just an example of a gap analysis. But essentially as well, I had to look at how do we do it today and how will we be doing it in the future? And then really understand where are there some gaps. So where do we need to maybe have a workaround or perhaps do some training so that people can learn how to do something in a different way? And that's basically what the gap analysis was showing. But because PeopleSoft was a very comprehensive system, the only areas was specific kind of compliance-related requirements that the Johannesburg office had that needed to have some special custom solutions. But otherwise, we could pretty much slot into the new way of working. So that was a great project to start with, and I feel very privileged to have had that opportunity. But then life got more exciting, and I got a transfer to go work in the London office, which took me through the same company, but onto a brand new project. And with this project, before I tell you about that, let me tell you about what happened the first day that I had to go to the new office. I literally got lost on the London Underground and got a bit of a panic as well. So I was late for my first day. I was late by 45 minutes, which was very, very embarrassing because the Anderson office was in the London Old Bailey, which was really formal, very proper, and the last thing you want to do is be late. But anyway, they handled it really well and excused me because I was brand new to the whole country. and the city as well. So after that little bit of embarrassment, I could get involved with a very exciting project. And that project was called, the software we were installing was Vantiv, and it was basically standardizing again for Anderson's internal function, all of the call center functionality effectively. So the scenario we had was that the company wanted to reduce the number of help desks around the globe because, as you can imagine, before there was centralization of call centers, you would have help desks that would all solve a certain number of calls over the phone. And as we all know by now, is that it's very easy to standardize call center first level support through centralized call centers. So I was very lucky to be part of this amazing opportunity to do one of the first really large call center implementations around the world for this prestigious company. So my role was, as the business analyst, I had to go and meet all these different European help desk managers to, again, understand their current state. So I really had to understand how did they do their current local offices processes. So I was kind of becoming quite an expert in process mapping. And I had to also work really quite closely with them to understand what were their specific country level requirements, because there's always quirky things that makes people feel like they are a bit different. So this was also the first project where I realized as a business analyst the importance of building strong relationships where people can trust you to talk to you about their situation. So you really learn to be an active listener as a business analyst. And I still believe to today that if you do learn to be an active listener and you can build that rapport and that strong relationship with your business stakeholders, you'll get a lot further, a lot faster. Because remember, a lot of the time, you are the change agent. So you're effectively introducing change, and you know just how little people want to change in general. So if you come in and you want to rip out a process and replace it with something else, there's all kinds of repercussions. People have to change how they work, which is uncomfortable. And people potentially, in a really terrible situation, might lose their roles. So as a business analyst, it's really good to build that trust, build relationships, and try and always sell the good news to your stakeholders, because often there are a lot of good news with the changes that you introduce. So that was a really good one where I learned soft skills. I also learned how to work with people from different cultures, which was fantastic. And it helped me to learn how to adapt so that I can use different skills to communicate with the different languages. I changed the way that I would ask for information by providing a lot of information before I start bombarding people with questions, for example. But that's a whole topic for a different video. Let's just have a quick look. How did I do the actual work for this project? So because I was again asked to do the current state, I did more process maps and I did transition onto Visio. So that was really quite good. I did requirements documentation, which you might know by now. Some people are completely removing this requirement to do requirements documentation, and some companies are not. They're focusing still on using requirements documentation in the big document sense. So some companies will be doing Agile and only do user stories on things like Trello and Confluence and so forth. And some companies do still have some compliance requirements or maybe some red tape internally that forces them to use some of these big documents. But at the time, this was still pretty much the documents we used to document requirements. And I'll show you what that looks like in the next slide. We also had to do another gap analysis in a similar way, comparing what local countries were doing versus what the new system will give them, and identify areas that there's really something that needs to be changed or customized. And like I said, I had great time meeting all these different people from different cultures. So that was a fantastic project, and I feel very lucky to have been part of it. Now let me just briefly show you. So with this project, again, I had to do pretty much the same outputs. And this is an example of the requirement specification document. As you can see, it's a very formal document where you document literally everything about the project, but also about the requirement itself. So you'll document the whole current state using a variety of different diagrams. So it wasn't just my process maps that went in there. There was some technical documentation and some solution overviews. And then the future state diagrams also went in there, as well as detailed requirements descriptions. In this document template here on this example, you can use a variety of different techniques to document requirements. And here you get the flexibility to use cases, or you can use epics and user stories. You can include your business rules as well as business requirements and functional requirements. And in this document, they actually include the non-functionals too, which is sometimes excluded. So this is just an example of a requirement spec, but I wanted to show you what it was like when I had to document requirements in a formal way. Okay, so now the conclusion of this is really, after these two massive industry-leading projects, what did I actually do? So as an actual doer, I interviewed a lot of people. So I sat with people, spoke to them about their processes, their requirements, their concerns, their problems, and what they would love the system to be able to do. I did the same by facilitating workshops around those topics. I analyzed the current system as well as the processes and documented what was required there. Then I learned how the new system worked. So there was a lot of learning involved so that I was able to have the proper conversations about the future state. Then I created and confirmed 2 gap analyses, one for each of these projects. And I created and confirmed many different process diagrams with both of these projects. And then, like I said, I documented all of that in a requirement specification document and had to negotiate sign-off. So the big takeaway here is what I want to share with you is what I didn't have to do, because sometimes people are not quite sure what a BA will do and won't do. So here, I didn't ever need to do any coding or programming in any situation. I didn't need to be able to write SQL. I didn't need to manage the project, although maybe sometimes I'll get involved in planning the business analysis component, but the project management was left to the project manager. I didn't ever need to actually test the system. And this is also very important. People sometimes get a bit blurry around whether a business analyst is also a tester. They're not testers. So a business analyst, and in this role, you might document your requirements so that it's like test scenarios, but you don't actually execute the tests. It's just a control that you don't also test. You tend to be the one to can clarify to testers what should be the results, but you are not the one that actually executes the tests. And I didn't need to be technical. Whilst I had a little bit of technical background because I worked on a technical help desk, I wasn't technical in any sense beyond that. So these are just a few things that you need to know in terms of what it's like to be a business analyst. Now, I'm asking you if you've got any questions, and please put that in the comments below. I'll be more than happy to check the comments and answer your questions. But I just wanted to share these first 2 projects that I had with Anderson during this video. And in the next video, I will talk to you about my time at Deloitte, which was a completely different type of project with completely new experiences. And I can't wait to share that with you. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I look forward to making the next one for you. If you did enjoy it, consider liking the video and subscribing. Great, I'll see you in the next video.